Thank you very much indeed, Cathaoirleach. Minister, you're welcome to the House. Just forgive me, I have to turn off hearing aids before I speak. Just to follow on from my colleague, the Cathaoirleach there, the issue of oversight is something that causes me a huge amount of concern, and particularly when we're talking about accidents in the maritime space. And I recently engaged with the Health and Safety Authority on the accident that took place that cost Katrina Lucas her life. A file was prepared for the Director of Public Prosecutions by the Health and Safety Authority, and the Director of Public Prosecutions has declined to proceed with any charges. That for me is very serious. That somebody spent a lot of time investigating and decided that there was something that needed to go to the DPP. And having read the rationale of the DPP, I don't fully understand how the case was set aside. But of greater concern to me is the second paragraph of the letter from the Health and Safety Authority, and it deals specifically with the life jackets that were issued to members of the Coast Guard. Now, we have video evidence and documentary evidence of complaints since 2015 being raised with the Coast Guard with respect to the life jackets. To put it mildly, by some people, they said they were dangerous to use. There is a strong belief in the Coast Guard volunteers that Katrina Lucas's life jacket, which was not tested and nobody knows where it is, would have turned her on her face rather than her back when she was in the water. This is a very serious allegation that's been made by people that were on the ground, and we have no way of knowing. Now, the Health and Safety Authority tell me that they had the life jackets tested through the British system with the manufacturers, and that the life jackets conformed to EU standards. I'm wondering, Minister, are you concerned that nobody spoke to the volunteers who reported diligently from 2015 the dangerous situation regarding the use of those life jackets? There is video evidence, I understand, from Donegal. There is documentary evidence, including photographs from Cork, from Dingle, from Cleggan, I think it is in Galway, and from Mayo, that on average 2 out of every 5 life jackets resulted in inappropriate or wrong inflation, which caused either injury to the wearer or caused the wearer to be turned onto their face. Would you have a concern about that they did not engage with these people?
Sir? Senator, I'm afraid I'd be very reluctant to comment without having a knowledge of the matter, but also just come back to your first initial comments there. You know, matters for the DPP are the DPP's judgment, regardless of who's made an application. That is a matter for the DPP, and I don't think it's appropriate for us, or certainly not for myself, to start second guessing what the DPP's decision in that regard.
It would suggest, though, would it not, that there was something seriously wrong? That the HSA felt it within their gift to pass something to the DPP.
I know, but I can't put myself in the position of the DPP, and I don't think I should.
Yeah, no, I'm not questioning. The DPP made his decision on the basis that they have to bring a case to trial that they think they can win. The situation is, I know anecdotally from the area that, for example, I believe the air crew involved in the rescue of Miss Lucas were not interviewed by the Accident Investigation Board. And if there are other people that were not interviewed, and I understand there are, then perhaps the DPP didn't have sufficient evidence which was available.
Senator, I've just been advised that we need to be cautious in terms of
I fully appreciate that.
Of an ongoing legal.
Yeah. Well, there is no ongoing legal at this stage.
It's been advised by the
okay. Yeah. Well, I do think it's worrying that there is a situation where an investigation has taken place and key witnesses were not interviewed, and I think Minister, you should be concerned about that.
I'm more inclined to heed the clerk's advice in this regard.
I think that's a bit of a cop-out now.
No, it's not. I think it's correct.
No, Minister, I'm not asking you to confirm whether or not something was wrong. I'm just saying, would you be concerned? As an ordinary citizen, would you be concerned?
You're concerned about all accidents, not in the history of all accidents, but our job here is to create a new accident investigation unit that addresses future accidents that will no doubt unfortunately happen, and making sure we get the best possible system in place to learn the lessons from those so that we don't see future accidents.
I think it's very hard to get, Chairman, you'll forgive me here now, I think it's very hard to get the best anything in place when dealing with a certain section of your department. And I fully appreciate the letter you sent to me that you can't have hands on everything and you can't have eyes on everything. But there is a complete reluctance on the part of your department to engage with this committee, to be answerable to this committee. And what are we here for if we're not to hold oversight on your behalf and on behalf of the citizens of this country?
Absolutely, and available at all times, and to look at every issue and every angle, but following proper due process.
Due process, Minister, I cannot have due process if people won't answer letters I send them, if they don't explain questions that I ask them. A simple question I asked, which comes under your remit: how many trips are done by the search and rescue helicopters for patient transfers to hospitals, and are we paying for those outside the contract? Because nobody is prepared to answer it. You're all telling me it's commercially sensitive.
I know part of those concerns, but due process with regard to the contract arrangements for air sea rescue, and we're in the middle, right in the middle of the contracting process. When I say we follow due process, it's because in the public interest, that is actually the right thing to do. It's actually in the public interest that we sometimes make decisions in the middle of contracting, particularly, that we do have to be careful, because it's not in the public interest for us to engage in contractual negotiations in public in some instances.
Minister, I know you for a while, and I know you to be a decent, honest, forthright man. That, for me, does not equate with the Eamon Ryan that has just spoken here now. Because we have a situation where this is a contract that's already in place. Helicopters are flying patients from the Aran Islands into Galway, and I'm being told by whistleblowers that the cost to the state is astronomical. Now, if that's true, this committee has a right to know that. I'm being told that every training flight that takes place is being billed to the state. And you say we're in the middle of the next contract. Surely to God, if we made a total foul-up of the last one, we should get the next one right. Would you agree with that?
I don't accept we made a total foul-up of the last one.
Sorry, say that again to me, sorry.
I don't accept that the last one was a total foul-up, as you say, in your words.
Well, it was for 500 million over 10 years, which is 4.2 million a month. And we're paying somewhere close to 6 million a month. So I really need to know where the extra money is going. And I think the public have a right to know.
We also have Controller and Auditor General and loads of mechanisms to make sure that there is proper spending and budget and allocation. We're all subject to internal audit and investigation and appropriate. But I go back to the key point in terms of when you're in the middle of new contract negotiations, there is certain sensitivity around commercial arrangements so that you don't distort in whatever way a potential public tender. That is good practice.
Minister, the first thing you do, if you were entering into a contract for your own house in the morning, the first thing you do is look back at the last one and decide, have we made mistakes along the way? Should we debate and discuss those mistakes? Should we learn from them, and should we move on? For example, if we wanted to transfer patients from islands to hospitals, and that was not in the last contract, we should have it in the next contract. Would you agree with that?
I'm very glad. I visit those islands on a frequent basis, and I'm very glad that there's an air ambulance service that serves those islands. I absolutely would insist that there is proper provision there.
So you would want it in the next contract, rather than to be paid for outside the contract?
Having said that point, and I have personal reason for saying it, I don't think we should do contract negotiations in the middle of an Oireachtas.
I'm not asking you to
not when we're discussing PLS on a marine action investigation unit especially.
You're the Minister. You surely have an opinion as to what your ideal service is going to look like. And by the way, it's part of the marine accident that we have a good search and rescue service.
I'd agree.
So, I mean, surely you want it to be right, and you want all of the issues, and God knows I've sent enough of them to you over the last 2 years. You want the issues that are there answered. You want a system that we can all be proud of, that we are not paying through the nose for. Look at what the British have got. 1.6 billion for 18 helicopters over 12 bases, 2 fixed-wing aircraft and other technology. We're talking about, it's gone to tender at 1.3 billion, and we're talking about 5 helicopters and perhaps 1 fixed-wing, although I'm not sure about that. So there's roughly 250 million per station, more than the Brits are paying.
Chair, this is a complete divergence away from the subject we're meant to be discussing.
Right, okay.
We're straying into an area that...
Okay.
You know,
all right. Look, forgive me, Minister, but my frustration at this, there's a perception there that all I want is the Irish Air Corps to fly search and rescue. Let me put it on record. I know they can't do it right now, and I know that decision is made and done. I just want the next one to be right.
Can I conclude on this? I absolutely agree with you on that. I would like to see our Air Corps having this sort of capability, and I think all concerned in government do. We have to work to deliver that capability, and that is part of, there's a whole range of capabilities we need in our Defence Forces. I think the Defence Commission report was warmly welcomed in government. It requires us to significantly increase investment in our Defence Forces, Air Corps, Naval and the Army, and I think that will put us in a better position for future tender.
Just to go back to the report that has not been published, I find it offensive as an elected member of the Oireachtas that reports are withheld from members of the Oireachtas. If we have a problem with respect to the confidentiality of reports, if we elected members have a problem with that, then we should have sanctions in place that would deal with people who leak reports. That's my view. But for oversight to take place, every rationale that's provided, for example, to influence this legislation, that rationale, the reports that feed into that, should be made available to this committee. The committee should be bound by whatever oath is required to keep silent on it. But at the end of the day, we cannot have oversight unless we see and have the opportunity to question what's in reports, and we should be able to do that in private session as well. I do understand the sensitivity, Minister, and I also understand that some people remark openly that this place leaks like a sieve, and that's something, even the Cabinet has been accused of leaking like a sieve, and that is something very dangerous for our democracy. Would you agree with that? We really do need to find a way of dealing with our issues in private.
I agree. I mean, we need transparency as well. There's conflicting, but our Constitution sets out the mechanisms for that. Our Constitution requires Cabinet confidentiality, and the protector of the Constitution, one of the officers, is the Attorney General, and government are bound to heed his or her advice in terms of what delivers the constitutional protections that protect us all in the end. We could be at the end, at the receiving point of a report, if it wasn't, so that constitutional office, you do have to heed, the Attorney General.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that for the time being, Chairman. Thank you very much. And thank you for your...
Thanks.
Minister, just finally, I just want to ask, like, the Katrina Lucas inquest is coming up in April, and it's a really tragic event that happened in my own county of Clare. Do you expect the MCIB to turn up to that inquest and to partake in and help out in whatever way possible?
I think that is a matter for the MCIB. We don't get involved in the department. Our job is to set up the policy context and the resources and the legal legislative mechanisms, but that'll be the matter for the MCIB.
Okay.